So I've got some browsers side by side here just to show the idea of like the real user and the attacker. So on the left, we're sort of emulating the real user, and on the right, we're emulating the attacker who has stolen some credentials and wants to try them against your Snowflake instance. So the real user on the left is using a SAML-enabled Snowflake instance. They log in as user Cody from their Okta instance, and it does proper Okta-based SAML, and they're logged into their account nicely. Exactly what we want. We're assuming for the sake of argument here that Okta has been obviously very well secured, has good authentication controls, tight MFA and everything, and we were logged in as a user already, and we just did SAML auth to Snowflake. However, even though they can do this, the attacker on the right can still try the account locally, doesn't need to click the sign in with Okta button, and that account still works. This is the default. If you've set up an account with a password already and then you go and add SSO afterwards, that happens. You have to explicitly disable that. And I'm pretty sure most people out there are going to go and enable SAML and probably forget about this step. So it's really important. Okay, now we'll move on to a demo for actually hardening the accounts. So we're going to look at disabling local account passwords and discovering accounts without MFA. So what we want to do depends on whether you want to go the SAML SSO route or whether you want to go the external MFA route. We're going to focus on this, on the situation of going the SAML SSO route. And we're going to look at what you would do in the console. So I've logged in as an admin user account now, and we're in the web UI ready to execute SQL. Now this is the first point to consider with Snowflake, is that it's a SQL database, and basically because of that, everything is done via SQL. This may have actually contributed to why some of these vulnerabilities are here, because there aren't like very easy, nice user control GUIs in it in the same way that you'd expect in a lot of other apps. It's very flexible doing everything with SQL. It's very powerful, but obviously you have to run commands to do things. So just bear that in mind. So everything's done via SQL. So I've now got this SQL statement that I've made where I query the users table in Snowflake. And what I'm looking for here is accounts that haven't been disabled, because if they're disabled, we don't really care about them. We want to look at ones that have a password. So they have a local password, and they also do not have external duo. So we're saying here, basically, if there are accounts with a local password that haven't had MFA set up, then we need to do something about it. Now, if we've enabled SAML SSO, we just need to disable the local password. If we're going the external Duo MFA route, then we would need to enable Duo MFA in those cases for the account. So we're going to assume that we've enabled SAML SSO, and we're just looking to disable the local passwords. But it's a very similar query we would do for both. So first of all, first pitfall, we're going to try and execute this. I'm, as you can see, I'm an org admin at the moment. That's my role. I run it, and I go, okay, schema does not exist and not authorized. That's weird. Now, at this point, maybe you start Googling around, why is this not working? How do I list users? Maybe you quite quickly find this command, show users, and then you run this and go, oh, okay, cool, this works now. I've got what I need. Okay, I'm not filtering it the same way. Let's go and have a look along, and I want to know which users have local passwords. Oh, they're all false. Oh, great. Okay, so everything's worked. It must have auto-disabled those passwords once I did the SAML-based login. We're all good. Wrong. This data is incorrect. This is a common pitfall. The reality is that not all the information in this viewer is available based on the role I have at the moment as org admin. So that's actually incorrect data. It's completely misleading. What I'm going to do now is switch to a role that does have permissions. I'm going to use account admin. I think security admin works as well. And I'm going to run the command again. And you can see straight away how some of the columns, you've got the same rows, but some of the columns have more data than they did before. And that's because we've got full access to the data that's needed now. And now, if we scroll across, we're going to see actually every account has a password. They're all vulnerable. They've all got ghost logins. So be very careful with that, because it's an easy mistake to make. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to our filtered version, and we're going to run this again. You'll see how this actually works now, because we've got full permissions to access this view. So we'll run that, and we bring it out. And it actually brings out all the users, and that's because, as we saw, every account is vulnerable currently. They're all active, they all have a local password, none of them have got external MFA set up. So we're bringing out all the accounts as we expected. And what we want to do is address them one by one. So if you want to disable a local password, it's actually very simple. There are community articles for this, but it's just a simple alter command. So we're going to unset the password for Cody, and I'm just going to show now how this is addressed the vulnerability. So as soon as I've done that, if I go back to the login page again, and I put my KeyPass password in, I try to sign in, doesn't work anymore. We've addressed the ghost login vulnerability. Okay, now if I wanted to validate those results, I'm going to show you another smaller pitfall, but another important one to be aware of. We run this command again. Now, we would expect now Cody shouldn't appear because we've disabled this password, so has password should be false. It should be taken out from that where clause, but it's come back and it's still saying has password true. Why? Now, the reason is this is actually a view and it doesn't update live, so it updates periodically. So eventually this will update and reflect the true data and Cody would disappear from this query. But if we're running it straight away, there's a period of time where it's going to be out of date. Whereas if we go and run the show users command again and make sure we run it with the right privileges, account admins, we're getting the correct data set, we go and have a look now, this one is live and we can see that has password is false. So it's just another quick pitfall to be aware of because, depending on what way you do it, you may have out of date data and, that could affect the results. You just need to be careful. There's a couple of pitfalls there. But otherwise, it's a pretty easy thing to do. You just need to do this on a per user basis. Obviously, it doesn't scale very well with large numbers of users, but you could use more sophisticated SQL to automate it across all users if you'd like. In the case of Snowflake, in many cases, then you may not have many users because it's a database, and it may be easy enough to do it manually, but that's up to you in your instance. But the basic level is pretty easy to do. There's just some common pitfalls to be aware of.